פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודיע. פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודיע. God prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודיע. פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודיע. Oh God, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודיע. פיתחו לנו שערי צדק, נבוא בם נודיע.
Tonight, we will come in and out in your service with the following refrain. And this refrain is all about entering the 7 gates of the High Holy Days. 7 gates that will help you to prepare for the upcoming New Year and Yom Kippur, our day of forgiveness. So at the end of each gate, we'll recite together this refrain, as we'll practice in just a moment. And then we'll have a moment of silence just to take in everything that happened in that gate and to really prepare ourselves. So we read together. It's the italics, the 3rd paragraph on page 1. Read together. Open the gates that we may enter them and praise you.
We have knocked on your gates, merciful one. Do not turn us away empty-handed. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
How wonderful it is that we can be together. You know, the end of the year, as we're making our way towards the end of Elul and towards Rosh Hashanah, is a bit of an uncomfortable time. It's uncomfortable because we know that we're about to go. We know that we are about to go on trial and ask God to consider what our year was. You know, the famous and well-known custom that we often do to have the apples and the honey. There are a variety of reasons why we bring apples and honey, but it's kind of a weird thing. If you go to the courthouse, I mean, in David Young's courtroom, it's a little bit different. It's a more cheerful place. He's fun. But in most courtrooms, as you're coming in for trial, the bailiff doesn't offer you apples and honey and say, hey, I hope you have a good one. You know, isn't this wonderful? No, it's a scary time. It's a scary time because we're about to go on trial and consider our deeds and try to create for ourselves a new reality in which our souls mature and grow. So why then do we have the apples and the honey? Well, the idea is that the very fact that God is judging us is pretty incredible. If you think about it, if God judges us, that means that God's been watching us. That means that God cares about each and every one of us. And the realization that we have right now that God cares about us, that God's watching us, and that God wants us to grow, to mature, and to renew our souls is worth the joy and sweetness of eating apples and honey. So it's a little bit of an anxious time as we go on trial, and I think it's more of a mitzvah in this time of anxiety before Rosh Hashanah to be a little uncomfortable. So we could have done this, the doctor said do it in the sanctuary, it's going to be great, but we said our people want to go the extra mile. They want to schwitz, they want to wear masks, they want to feel a little uncomfortable because they're so devout. So thank you. For everybody who is watching at home, in all seriousness, this has been a very tense time. Another very difficult year of Corona, added on to all of the other issues that are going on in our world. And so I think in some years, Rosh Hashanah has meant for the Jewish people a time to open up the books and have God judge us and ask us to repair our souls and mature. But there have also been years in our history where the Jewish people have come to Rosh Hashanah and collectively asked God for healing, to ask God to make our world a better and safer place. So tonight, even though we're in this beautiful place, even though we're reminded of our bountiful blessings, if you're not sure about our blessings, just turn around and see the incredible building behind you that we've been working so hard to build. For 4 years, it's been a dream. And this past Thursday, to see more than 500 kids enjoying it and walking through and celebrating our future, it's not all doom and gloom here. But it is a time where we're asking for healing for ourselves and for the world. So let's now take a deep breath as we plan to put this year behind us and look towards the future of a better and brighter year. Let's also now put this week behind us as we say goodbye to the gift that this Shabbat has been and welcome our new week before we begin our service of Slichot.
Borei peri hagafen, borei peri hagafen, yailai yalalai yailai yalalai yalalai Baruch atah Adonai Elohim
Samin.
Borei minei v'samin, borei minei v'samin, yailai yalalai yailai yalalai yailai Baruch atah Adonai Elohim
Borei me'orei ha'esh.
Borei me'orei ha'esh, borei me'orei ha'esh, yaidai 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 yaidai
בין קודש לחול.
המבדיל בין קודש לחול, המבדיל בין קודש לחול, המבדיל בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחול, זרענו וכספנו ירבה כחול, והכוכבים בלילה. שבוע טוב, 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 שבוע טוב. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera v'yameinu, Yavo eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi.
We read together on page number 2. Open the gates that we may enter them and praise you. We have knocked on your gates, merciful one. Do not turn us away empty-handed.
Gate 2, forgiveness. There's a beautiful midrash from the Song of Songs that portrays God as a loving parent, ready, willing, and waiting to give, to offer forgiveness. The Holy One said to Israel, "My children, make for me an opening of teshuva as small as the eye of a needle, and I will make the opening of forgiveness so wide that wagons and coaches could enter." It's an understanding that we look for something small, we constrict, but God wants us to open up. And so the Hebrew poet Yehuda Amichai understood that even with a God so ready to forgive, it is us, the human being, that stands in our own way. From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. But doubts and loves dig up the world like a mole, a plow, and the whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood. I asked myself, who's listening to these words of confession? Magnificent ear of the universe, are you my personal confidant? Or am I just talking to myself? Then I got it. The question is a diversion to distract me from hearing who I really am. We now enter the gate of forgiveness, ready to face ourselves in truth.
Top of page 3.
El Nora Alila, El Nora Alila, בשעת הנעילה. ותן נספק אירועים, לך היינו עושים, וסלדתי בחילה, בשעת הנעילה. אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה.
שבתי לך גם שם, וחצה פשט וחשם, המציאנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה.
אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה. יהיה לכם נשיא יתרה, והלצמים ערה, וחותמי מלאור ולגילה, בשעת הנעילה. אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה. חונותם ורעתם, וכל לוחץ ולוחם, העשה בהם צלילה, בשעת הנעילה. אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה. זכור צדקת אביהם וחדש את ימיהם, כקדם ותחילה, בשעת הנעילה. אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה.
קרנה שם רצון, חשב שער חצון, האלוהים בלחילה, בשעת הנעילה.
אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה. יזכו לשנים רבות, הבנים והבנות, בדיצה וצוהלה, בשעת הנעילה. Last time, אין נורא עלילה, אין נורא עלילה, המשלנו מחילה, בשעת הנעילה.
The Unatana Tokef prayer presents us with the book of life and death, and what is described in there are all our deeds. God reviews this book in that day of judgment. What is written there, we have done. It is our actions. And Leonard Cohen always was connected to this prayer, the prayer that talks about who lives and who dies, and he made it his own through this song. Like all of us who experience loss, there is a question in this song of doubt, faith, and purpose.
lonely slip, who by barbiturate, who in the realms of love, who by something blunt, who by avalanche, who by powder, who for his greed, who for his hunger, and Rosh Hashanah is Yom Kippur Yechadenu, who is calling, who by brave ascent, who by accident, who in solitude, who in his mirror, who by her command, who by his own hand, who in mortal chains, who in power, the Rosh Hashanah is Yom Kippur Yechadenu, who is calling, teshuva, tefillah, tzedaka, ma'avirin et roh hagzira.
Page 4. If you are comfortable, you may rise. Ashamnu, together, we have trespassed against God and man, and we have devastated by our guilt. But God knew we have betrayed God and man. We have been ungrateful for the good done to us. Gazalnu dibarnu dofi, we have stolen, we have slandered. He'evino, we have caused others to sin. Vihirshanu, we have caused others to commit sins for which they are called Rishayim, wicked. Zadnu, we have sinned with malicious intent. Hamasnu, we have forcibly taken others' possessions, even though we paid for them. Tafalnu sheker, we have added falsehood upon falsehood. We have joined with evil individuals or groups. Ya'atnu ra, we have given harmful advice. Kizavnu latznu, we have deceived, we have mocked. Maradnu, we have rebelled against God and God's Torah. Ni'atznu, we have caused God to be angry with us. Sararnu, we have turned away from God's Torah. Avinu, we have sinned deliberately. Pashanu, we have been negligent in our performance of the commandments. Sararnu, we have caused our friends grief. Kishunu aref, we have been stiff-necked, refusing to admit that our suffering is caused by our own sins. Rashanu, we have committed sins for which we are called Rasha, raising a hand to hit someone. Shachatnu, we have committed sins which are the result of moral corruption. Ti'avnu, we have committed sins which the Torah refers to as abominations. Ta'inu, we have gone astray. Titanu, we have led others astray. Our God and God of all creation, we have caused more harm than we can remember and hurt more people than we ever realized, both by what we have done and by what we have neglected to do. We dare not see the effects of our sins. Because of your great mercy, even for these we ask your pardon and forgiveness. We ask your pardon not only for the great sins, but for the small ones as well. Both are part of our daily life, and you alone know what is great and small. We join together. For not listening to your voice within us, for denying the needs of our soul, for making this world a god, for not doing ourselves justice, for giving our money and withholding ourselves, for shrugging our shoulders. for passing the blame to others, for using them for our own ends, for not taking responsibility, for hoarding grudges and insults, for refusing to let go, for abandoning hope, for making God in our own image, for our own hypocrisy and self-righteousness, for profaning holy things, for not growing up, for believing only in this life, for forgetting eternity.
ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו.
Avinu Malkeinu, we stand in awe, we draw close in love.
Avinu Malkeinu, the power that passes through us and pervades all things.
Avinu Malkeinu, the divine that is present within and among us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. We speak this sacred truth aloud.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Va'al Olalenu V'Tapenu. We yearn for true compassion for our children most of all.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei Dever, V'Cherev, V'Ra'av Me'alenu. May we resist the ravages of illness, fear, and despair.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kaleh Kol Tsar Umastin Me'alenu. Let us summon courage to withstand our enemies.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kotfeinu B'Sefer Chayim Tovim. Let the goodness of this gift of life be engraved upon our hearts.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova. May we taste anew the sweetness of each day.
Avinu Malkeinu, Malei Yadeinu Mibirchotecha. Let us wake up to the blessings already in our grasp.
Avinu Malkeinu, however small our deeds, let us see their power to heal. May we save lives through compassion, generosity, and justice.
אבינו מלכנו, שמע קולנו. אבינו מלכנו, חטאנו לפניך. אבינו מלכנו, חמול עלינו, ועלול עלינו, ותפנו. אבינו מלכנו, כל דבר וחרב ורב מעלינו. אבינו מלכנו, קלה כל צר ומסטין מעלינו. אבינו מלכנו, אבינו מלכנו, קרבנו בספר חיים טובים. אבינו מלכנו, חדש עלינו, חדש עלינו, שנה טובה, שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, אבינו מלכנו, חדש עלינו, שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, שמע
read, "We have knocked on your gates, merciful one. Do not turn us away empty-handed."
You can be seated. Our third gate is one of warm-heartedness. You know, we've come to the end of Torah reading. And so as we go through the cycle, we start with Adam, who is male and female. God created Adam. God marches every creature in front of Adam, and there is no one that he loves until Adam is put to sleep and woman is taken from him. And he says, "This is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." So we understand that love has to start with the self. And yet, as we travel through Genesis, we still see very selfish love. We see parents choosing one child to love. We see sibling rivalry until we get to the end of Genesis, where we have these 12 tribes who take care of each other. And so we learn that Genesis is about the evolution of love of self to love of family. And then we go into Exodus. There we experience hardship and slavery, and as we leave, we hear the same law applies to both the native-born and the foreigner among you. We learn to love people who are part of us because they are part of our community. And so we end the book of Exodus extending that love not just from ourselves, not just to our family, but to our entire Jewish community. In Leviticus, we are taught when a foreigner resides among you in your land, you must not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am Adonai, your God. And so in the book of Leviticus, it's not just our community that we love, but those who want to be part of our community, those who live amongst our community. And then we get to Numbers. And in Numbers, we are taught to love God. We hear the 13 attributes, which we will chant during the high holidays, that God is long-suffering, great in love, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but by no means clearing the guilty. Pardon, I pray thee, the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of your love, and as you have forgiven this people from Egypt until now. And it is in the book of Numbers that Balaam looks upon us and blesses us because of our tents, because of our community. And we see that Numbers is about learning to love God, the source of unconditional love, who we cannot see or fully know. And then we move to Deuteronomy. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And just a few verses later, we hear God defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, loves the foreigner, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you were slaves in Egypt. We hear at the end of the book, I command you this day to love Adonai your God, to walk in God's ways, and to keep God's commandments, laws, and rules, that you may thrive and increase, and that God will bless you in the land you're about to enter. And so with Deuteronomy, we extend our love of God to everyone, to all of God's creation. We start from a selfish place, but hopefully by this time in the year, our Torah has opened our hearts and we love all of God's creation. And so as we enter into gate 3, the gate of warm-heartedness, I invite you to think How do we show love to ourselves, to our partners, to our families? How do we show love to our community, to our country, to the foreigner, to those within our borders who are different, who believe differently? How do we show love to God? And how does that love of our higher power manifest itself through our actions towards people we do not know? Let's build this world from love.
עולם חסד ייבנה, ירדאי די די ירדאי די. עולם חסד ייבנה, ירדאי די די ירדאי די. עולם חסד ייבנה, ירדאי די די ירדאי די. עולם חסד ייבנה, ירדאי this world from love, yadadai, dai, yadadai, dai. And you must build this world from love, yadadai, dai, yadadai, dai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, dai, yadadai, dai, then God will build this world from love, yadadai.
Please join me in the English on page 8. Master of forgivings, examiner of hearts, the revealer of depths, speaker of justice, we have sinned before you. Have mercy upon us, glorious in wonders, great in consolations, remembering the covenant of God's nation, investigating annihilation. Full of answers, God's entreaty is awesome, drops evils to the ground and answers us. Open the gates, that we may enter them and praise you. Turn us away, empty.
אדון הסליחות בוחן לבבות גולי עמוקות דובר צדקות חטאנו לפניך רחם עלינו חטאנו לפניך רחם עלינו זכיות נורא תגילות סולי החרבונות עוני בצרות חטאנו לפניך רחם עלינו חטאנו לפניך רחם עלינו פועל ישועות צובע עתידות קורא הדורות רוכב על אבות
שומע תפילות תמיד נאות
חטאנו לפניך רחם עלינו חטאנו לפניך רחם עלינו.
We have sinned, God, and as sinners, we also realize we have the opportunity to enter into gate number 4. So let's take a deep breath in together and out. We are deserving of healing. On December 8th, 2018, my husband and I were about to leave the hospital with our new baby boy. He was born the day before, but before we could leave the hospital, we had to decide what his name would be. It was during Hanukkah, so maybe Mattathias? Nah, that didn't go very far. I wanted some sort of connection to the holiday, so I thought about bringing light into the world, about the hope of the Chanukiah during this really dark time of the year. For me, that light of the Chanukiah represented healing. And if I was to bring a child into the world, I wanted to bring a healer into the world. And so we named him Raphael, which the Hebrew root letters mean to heal. In fact, the word doctor in Hebrew is translated from this word meaning healer. Doctors are seen as healers. And so Raphael was his name to bring healing into the world. And also Raphael was one of those angels, of God's angels, that surrounds us when we sleep at night, protecting us. Now my baby Raphael is almost 3 years old, and over half of his life has been this pandemic. But he's lived up to his name already. During those months where we couldn't see anyone, he was the best friend to his brother, and he was an angel for his parents, offering us smiles, laughter, and joy. And watching both of my boys grow has been the best medicine for this time. Both of their names end with God's name, El. Raphael meaning God heals, and Nathanael meaning God's gift. Tonight, let us dedicate this fourth gate of healing to the angels in your life, the people who've helped you survive this past year. So take a moment now in this holy space to say thank you to the person, the people. Maybe it's a pet. Maybe it's God who's held you up and who's cared for you this year. We offer this healing prayer as usual for those in our community who are ill, but tonight to each and every one of us. Every member of this community needs this prayer this year as we approach Rosh Hashanah. Divine Spirit, come like a dove, shield and protect us, cover our wounds with your wings, shield us from sorrow, breathe hope songs within us, tend with your goodness to the pain that we bear, heal us now with miracle care, carry us high, far above, till I see your rainbow of promise. For real hope, I pray, lies ahead. This is a call and response. Dear God of our ancestors,
Dear God of our ancestors,
help us renew our faith.
help us renew our faith.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Bring peace to all our days.
Bring peace to all our days.
And restore our strength of body.
Restore our strength of body.
Help clarify our minds.
Help clarify our minds.
Refresh our tired spirit.
Refresh our tired spirit.
Rejuvenate our light.
Rejuvenate our life.
And thank you for all these blessings.
Thank you for all these blessings.
Throughout our days and nights,
Throughout our days and nights,
we celebrate the journey.
we celebrate the journey.
This precious gift of life.
This precious gift of life.
And we read together, we have knocked on your gates, merciful one. Do not turn us away empty-handed.
We've been reading this week in the Torah portion, Ki Tavo, a Torah portion that comes every year right before Rosh Hashanah, about tochacha, about retribution, about all the horrible things that will happen to the Jewish people if we don't hearken to God's voice. I think hearken to God's voice, you're not supposed to just sit outside and try and hear something. I think that means you're supposed to live a life of mitzvot. And if we don't have this consciousness of God in the things that we do, if we don't recognize that tonight is Slichot, and that it's the beginning of our High Holy Day season, if we don't prepare on Rosh Hashanah for the final judgment on Yom Kippur, then we're not hearkening to God's voice. So that's how the Torah portion, this section on retribution begins, but then it goes on and it lists all the horrible things that'll happen. And it's usually the same kind of thing that we always hear. You won't be safe. Other nations will attack you. You won't be healthy. You won't have rain. You won't have food. Those are the curses that you usually find in the Torah. But after all the curses are listed, in chapter 28 of Deuteronomy, verse 47, there's an end, there's a period that's put on this sentence. And it talks about where these sins come from. Why would we not listen to God's voice? If you think about it, what are the things in our life that would prevent us from being good Jews? What are the things in our life that would cause us to say, I'm not interested in doing the mitzvahs, I'm going to do something else instead? If you compare two different types of people, those who are impoverished and those who have blessings of bounty and the things that we need, we could ask, which one of them is more likely to sin? The answer is they probably both will, but maybe for different reasons. A poor man who sins by steals because he's hungry. A rich man who steals because he's greedy. The single greatest sin of complacency came at the very beginning of Torah. The two people who were the most well off, the two people who were the most comfortable in the history of the human experience were Adam and Eve. And right away, having everything that they could imagine, they wanted the one thing that they couldn't have. And so they sinned through the medium of a piece of fruit. This week's Torah portion, as we discovered, some of us this morning, begins by the Jewish people offering first fruits, ki tavo, when you come into the land of Israel. And why was it so important that the Jewish people offered fruit when they entered into the land of Israel? Because they were atoning for the sin of Adam and Eve. And saying Adam and Eve weren't grateful for what they have, but we're entering this land and we're showing that we're grateful for it. But yet this Torah portion fears. The thing that this Torah portion fears more than anything when it tells us, if you don't listen to God's voice, here's all the horrible things that will happen to you. What this Torah portion fears more than anything is that we become too prosperous. Listen to how the section ends in verse 47. Tachat asher lo avadata et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha uvetuv lavav merov kol. Because you did not serve the Lord your God. How? Look what the Torah says. With gladness and with good of heart, out of an abundance of everything. What God is most fearful of is that when you are prosperous, when you have everything, when things are going so well, in that moment, you'll turn away from God. And so we see that no matter what station we are at in life, whether it is from a standpoint of struggling, of poverty, of feeling impoverished and down and out, or whether we are prosperous and have all of the blessings that we need. What God fears the most is that when we are prosperous, when we are well off, when things are doing well in our lives, when there's lots of other things that you could be doing tonight, instead of hearkening to God's voice as we prepare for the high holy days, we're distracted. We're distracted by the blessings that are in our life, and we misunderstand why we have them and what they are for. And so the Torah comes in this week's Torah portion, or this past week's Torah portion, before we hear all of these retributions, to remind us, when you are grateful, then you'll understand the blessings in your life. But when you only seek more and more blessing, it's easy to get away. One quick idea from the Talmud to conclude. There was a man who died and went to heaven and came before God, and he said to God, "You know, I was too poor. And because I was so poor and I never had enough money and I never had enough food, I didn't have time for mitzvahs." And the response from God was, "You couldn't have been as poor as Hillel. Hillel, the sage, was as poor as it got. He had no money. He didn't even have the 1 penny that it cost to get into the yeshiva. And so what he would do is he would go up to the roof and sit in the snow and try to eavesdrop in on the lessons." Well, the next guy comes and says, "You know," this is chutzpah, but the next guy comes and says, "You know, God, I was too rich. I had too much money. I had too much business. I had too much enjoyment. And so because of that, I didn't have time to do mitzvahs." And how does God respond? "You couldn't have been as rich as this one rabbi who owned all of these different pieces of land. You couldn't have been as rich as King Solomon, who had all of the money in the world, but still found time every day to concentrate on what was truly important in life." The Torah warns us in this week's Torah portion, Merov Hakol, when you are at your most abundant, don't let that guide you astray.
We've been singing a number of Sephardic piyutim this evening. These are traditional songs that you sing on Slichot and then to close out Yom Kippur. And these songs are what keep the energy going at those last hours, those last moments where we just want to give up with the fast already, and give us that strength. And so I know it's hot outside, and maybe you're comfortable in your living room couch right now, but wherever you are, I want to invite you, if you feel moved at any point in the song, to stand up and let the Spirit take you, clap your hands, and join with us in this Sephardic piyut, Kianu Amecha.
Open the gates that we may enter them and praise you. We have knocked on your gates, merciful one. Do not turn us away empty-handed. Deep breath. Gate 6, blessing. When we believe that there are things we lack, or we perceive that others have wronged us, we can become mired in discontent and dissatisfaction. When an accounting of our souls, cheshbon hanefesh, is about what we are owed rather than how we want to grow and change these high holy days, we leave them feeling empty. To move from discontent and dissatisfaction to contentment and joy, we must have gratitude and awareness of our many blessings. Our lives are blessings, even when they are not perfect.
We sang Avinu Malkeinu earlier, our Father, our parent, seeing God in that role, and now we hearken to the Shekhinah, the maternal spirit of God. Repeat after me.
Sweet mother, I'm coming home. Sweet mother, I'm coming home. Now I know I'm not alone. Now I know I'm not alone. 'Cause I've been far. I've been far. Now I'm close. Now I'm close. Sweet mother, I'm coming home. Sweet mother, I'm coming home. Tell me, mother, can you hear me sing? Tell me, mother, can you hear me sing? Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Heart and soul, breath and skin, breath and skin. Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Oh, mother, please hold me tight. Oh, mother, please hold me tight. 'Cause mother, I need some help tonight. Mother, I need some help tonight. What went wrong? What went wrong? Soon be right. Soon be right. Oh, mother, please hold me tight. Oh, mother, please hold me tight. Tell me, mother, can you hear me sing? Tell me, mother, can you hear me sing? Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Heart and soul, breath and skin, breath and skin. Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Oh, mother, this world is strange. Oh, mother, this world is strange. Love me, mother, and make me brave. Love me, mother, and make me brave. In my dreams, or on this stage, Oh, mother, this world is strange. Oh, mother, this world is strange. Tell me, mother, can you hear me sing? Tell me, mother, can you hear me sing? Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Heart and soul, breath and skin, breath and skin. Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Your love is everything. Your love is everything.
As we move to our seventh gate of returning of teshuva, I'd like to invite Ricky Dorn to share a poem.
As we enter this gate, we read together, "We have knocked on your gates, merciful one. Do not turn us away empty-handed."
Yom Kippur will be the time to atone. My soul is stern and I'm all alone with my thoughts and my oughts, even confessing the almost got caughts, seeking a clean slate to last all year, and a merciful voice from Hashem to hear. For sins I committed of my free will, and those that happened by accident still. For sins I committed myself or in tandem, for those premeditated or at random. For sins of large or small capacity, and those that were timid or done with audacity. With no presumption but some remorse, I sincerely promise to stay on course, grateful for having another chance to assume a stronger, purer stance. I'll say it silently, and I'll say it aloud. I'll try to be a Jew of whom I can be proud.
On Slichot, help us to change our Torah covers, the white ones, to the white ones in order to signify purity and sanctity. So we're going to witness this change together. Before we do so, on page 10, please join me. As the Torah covers go from dark to white, so may our motives and our actions change from greed to generosity, from selfishness to compassion, from fear to faith, and from indifference to righteousness.
Hey ho, 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 hey ho. Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam.
If you're able.
Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam.
Let's rise.
Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Or Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Salam Aleinu
This entire month of Elul, we have been working on teshuva, our final gate. We still are working on the various steps, and I thought it would be important for us to remember them. Our first step is refraining from the action or renouncing the action. Stop doing the sinful act. Our second step, regret. Be genuinely sorry, ashamed even. Our third, reveal. Admit what you did, say it out loud. Apologize if you hurt another person in your action. 4, reconcile. Repair the damage you've done. Repay. And the last step, resolve by reforming. Make sure you won't do it again by making a plan for next time. So we refrain, regret, reveal, reconcile, and resolve for a better year and a better us. I'd like to invite.
Thank you to our incredible band. Thank you so much to Dana on sound. We'll see you all in a few days.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to our incredible new cantor Tiffany Coyle, who put all of this together. We invite you to turn to each other and wish each other Shana Tova Umetuka.
Shana Tova.
Shavua Tov, everyone.